Hey guys, I just want to quickly let you know before diving into today's topic that there will be a link in the pinned comment below that will allow you to opt in to be gifted a free membership. The reason why I'm letting you know is because we have a lot of very generous community members here that have been gifting memberships like crazy. And I have a feeling there are quite a few of you that are unaware of this. The great news is you don't need to tune in to the live streams to be gifted one of these memberships. I would love it if you did, but I know that the live content isn't for everybody. So if you're not already opted in, click that link and opt into it. There's a really good chance at some point in time you will be gifted a free membership. And I do just want to let you know, you don't have to worry about being charged month after month after that by opting in. That's not how it works. Once you are gifted a membership, you get 1 free month and it ends. And if you want to continue to support me by remaining a member, that's up to you. But I feel like that's important to stress because I think a lot of people choose to not opt into it out of fear that it's going to be a recurring charge. That's not how it works. Not sure exactly why YouTube does it this way, but there you go. If you've been missing out, make sure you click in and opt in, and hopefully I'll see you as a member soon. All right, guys, in this video, we're talking about Sony and their upcoming live service games. Many of us have been waiting patiently for Sony to do another PlayStation showcase, and while we still don't have any official confirmation of it, it seems highly likely that in the next 4 to 5 weeks or so, that's exactly what's going to happen. And whenever Sony does decide to hold another showcase, many PlayStation fans are bracing themselves, knowing that quite a few live service games will be announced. And so something that happened is the head of PlayStation Studios, that being Hermen Hulst, came out and talked a little bit about what we can expect from these live service games. I think the timing is interesting. It does seem to signal that Sony is getting ready to make some more announcements. We know at the very least we can expect The Last of Us multiplayer game, because Naughty Dog did confirm that around June is when they're going to start giving us more information on it and talking more about it. And I'm assuming that's going to come in the form of a proper reveal trailer and something that is hopefully going to get us very excited. But let's head over to this interview that was done with Hermen Hulst, courtesy of GamesIndustry.biz. And they set up the article by basically pointing out that Sony has made it clear they have many live service games in development. They now own Bungie, they have Haven Studios, and they just picked up Firewalk Studios. And so they say here, PlayStation Studios head Hermen Hulst was keen to remind us that live service doesn't automatically mean the company is making 10 Fortnites or Destinies. We understand the competitive environment that is out there and the time investment from players that live services offer, and we want to deliver the highest quality games. There is a risk that we talk about live service in generic terms as if it is a single genre or even single business model. PlayStation Studios are making a variety of games that could be referred to as live services, targeting different genres, different release schedules, and at different scales. We are also creating games for different audiences, and I take confidence from our track record in creating worlds and stories that PlayStation fans love. So the article goes on to talk more about Firewalk Studios, not necessarily revealing anything new. Basically, what we've already heard, Firewalk Studios is making a live service game for PlayStation. They have 150 employees, and Sony is very much excited about what they're working on and what they've seen thus far. But there's a segment in the article that I do want to mention. It says an interesting side note on the game that Firewalk is making is that it's not technically going to be a PS5 exclusive, as the game is also being simultaneously developed for PC. It makes business sense to launch live service titles across multiple platforms, as it gives the title a larger addressable market in which to build an audience. Is this an approach Sony might be making with all of its live service-based titles? Hermen Hulst remains coy. Quote, we have made significant progress delivering games on PC in recent years, so where it makes sense for the game and the studio, it's a great option to have, but it's a decision that we will make for each individual game, end quote. So this interview wasn't necessarily very extensive, but I think there are a few key takeaways when it comes to what Hermen Hulst is saying about PlayStation's upcoming live service games. Number one, it's clear that the live service games are going to release day and date on PC, but he also wants to continue to make it clear that we shouldn't expect that for their big single-player exclusives. I fully expect games like The Last of Us multiplayer and this Firewalk Studios title, as well as many others, to release day and date on PC. It actually does make a lot of sense to do that, but I'm not necessarily expecting Wolverine or Spider-Man 2 or in the future Ghost of Tsushima 2 or whatever the sequel is going to be called. I don't expect these games to be launching day and date onto PC. Certainly not. So it seems that what Sony is trying to make clear is if we are making a multiplayer live service game, expect it to release on PC the same day as PS5. If it's a single player game, it's not going to release the same day on PC. And honestly, who knows if it's going to make its way to PC. Sony has been doing a good job putting more games onto PC, but still there are many, many PlayStation exclusives that have yet to release on PC, and I don't necessarily see that changing rapidly. Something else we can take away from this is that Hermen Hulst wants to make it clear that just because we're making many live service games, they're not just going to be the same type of games. And I think this is actually a really good thing for PlayStation. And I understand that a lot of PlayStation fans are skeptical and hesitant about Sony just diving in headfirst with so many live service games. I think there's a lot of great reasons to be skeptical and to be nervous. Sony definitely has something to prove here. There's no doubt about that. But I think the fact they're going to use these live service games as a way to diversify, to branch out into different genres and to make different types of games that honestly fans have been asking Sony to do for many years now, to kind of get back to doing those different type of experiences. Seems that live service is an area where Sony sees this as a great opportunity to do just that. So I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that we're going to see many different types of games. Certainly nobody wants to see Sony come out and just make, 10 different versions of Destiny or Fortnite. I'm glad to hear this because it means that they are self-aware and they do understand that if they make 10 live service games, they can't just make, 10 Fortnite-looking games that are all slightly different and hope that one of them sticks. That's definitely good news. Something else Hermen Hulst seems to stress every time he talks about these live service games is the quality of them. And this is something that I think is ultimately going to be the difference maker when it comes to whether or not these games are going to succeed or not. It doesn't matter what type of game you're making. It could be a single player action adventure game, could be a first person shooter, could be a Fortnite-esque type live service game. It really doesn't matter. If the quality isn't there, it's not going to succeed. And so this is a philosophy that obviously Sony is going to carry over into all types of games, into any type of game that they choose to make. And I'm just once again glad to hear Hermen bringing that up, because I do think it's a very important thing to bring up every time you're talking about the type of games you're making, but especially when you're choosing to make these types of games, the types of games you're not necessarily known for, and you still have something to prove in this area. Now, the final thing I want to bring up here, and this is possibly the most important thing, as I do think that when it comes to the PlayStation audience that is here, the core audience, it's going to be the thing that makes the biggest difference as to whether or not that core PlayStation audience is going to be receptive of these live service games, or if they're just going to be completely turned off by them. Something Hermen Hulst has continually brought up when it comes to talking about these live service games is storytelling. He wants to make it known to the entire PlayStation audience that something you can expect, and maybe not necessarily every single one of these live service games, but the majority of them, or certainly a lot of them, is that if you come to PlayStation because you care about the stories, you care about the characters, and that's pretty much why you're here, for the storytelling. And let's face it, when you think about these big AAA single-player narrative-driven games, that's why a lot of people are drawn to them. You're going to get that in a lot of these games. But the only difference is that you're going to be able to experience it in a more social environment. You're going to be able to play co-op, so on and so forth. There will likely be a PvP aspect if that's something you want to engage in. And I think that really what this comes down to is if Sony can actually successfully bring that type of storytelling and that type of quality that people have come to expect from their single player games into their live service games, the only thing, in my opinion, they're going to need to present to the core PlayStation audience to actually win them over on this and sell them on this is simply, and you can play it solo. The entirety of this game and its content can be played and enjoyed solo. I think if that's something they can have on offer, then they might really be onto something here. But I also do get the feeling that a lot of PlayStation fans might end up being won over by some of these games. I mean, I have to ask myself, for as many PlayStation fans that bought their consoles for a game like The Last of Us or The Last of Us Part 2 to experience that single player narrative driven experience, surely they loved the gameplay experience as well, or at least I would assume most of them did. I have to wonder how many of these players, when they see this Last of Us game properly revealed and they realize that, oh, it's the same great gameplay in the same universe that I like and that I've enjoyed, and there's going to be new characters and new experiences and new stories, all things that Naughty Dog has confirmed. I think a lot of PlayStation fans might end up being pleasantly surprised just how good some of these live service games turn out to be. But that's me being potentially overly optimistic. We all know just how bad some of these live services games turn out, and Sony is certainly not immune to that. 10 live service games is a lot. The idea that all 10 of these games are going to be super high quality, great games with no downsides, that's actually, I'd say, pretty unlikely. I'm expecting that some of these, or maybe even quite a few of these live service games, could end up disappointing pretty badly. That's not me necessarily going out of my way to be pessimistic. I think that's just me being realistic. But ultimately, I think Sony may be onto something with at least a few of these games, or at least a handful of them. And I'm very interested to see them. And at this point, I want to leave it to you guys. Please leave your thoughts down in the comments below. I want to know if you're somebody who is very skeptical about this live service approach, and you are somebody who's very much die-hard single-player, narrative-driven, AAA exclusive experiences. How do you feel about some of these games trying to incorporate that same storytelling, but in a more social environment? I'll be interested to see what you have to say. Leave the video a like if you enjoyed it or found it informative. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Hit the bell notification icon and feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.